Hello and good morning. I hope you're enjoying your mornings, not having to get up and come to class today. And as promised, I wanted to make a couple videos on a few different skills that will help you out throughout the class as we progress, starting off with the concept of comparison operators and logical operators in Excel. Now, the good news is you have already learned about if statements in Excel. And if statements are really a good place to start because they use comparison operators. And what is a comparison operator, in case you've forgotten? Comparison operators are what you see down here. So let me just move them over here, like so. So our good old comparison operators, which you've seen for many years, are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or not equal to. There's also one more, which is equal to. So basically, these operators that you see can be used to compare two values within a function, depending on the type of function, and either return a calculation or a value. In your prior class, you learned about the really best place to start when working with comparison operators or comparison functions, which is the if statement, which is a basic type of logical function. So now the if statement is something that is broken into three parts. So the syntax of an if statement is very simple. It is the logical test, value if true, and value if false. Now, you've seen those before, and this video is really focused on logical operators of and, or, and not. But I'll just very quickly show you an if statement so you can see how it could be modified using the and or logical functions. So note that an if statement is broken into three parts. The logical test, that's your comparison of two values. The value of true. So if this comparison that you're suggesting or looking at is a true statement, if the logical test that you have is true, then it's going to do whatever this is. And if it's not, then it's either going to display the word false or it's going to do something else if this logical test is not true. So the data set that you're looking at here is a data set of insurance policies. There's three different types of insurance policies. So there's homeowner policies, auto policies, and boat policies, right? You have to have insurance for all these things. The location of the customers that have these policies and the policy amounts, the amount they're paying in premiums per year, which is actually really great. A homeowner premium for $450 in 2022 is amazing. So just to get you warmed up, let's just look at the if statement before we look at the if and or if or statement. So say, for example, you're only interested in policies that are homeowner policies. You could write a function to look at the policy type and return yes or no, depending on if it's a homeowner or a auto or a boat policy. So yes, if it's homeowner, no, if it's anything else. To do that, you would start with the opening syntax of if, right? So you'd write that function if. Then you're going to enter the logical test if the value in cell E3, we're going to use the comparison operator of equals to, equals, and then we're going to type in homeowner, just like so. And I want to talk about this for just a second. So there are words in column E. So words, when we work in most programming type languages, even though we're really not working in programming just yet, are considered a string, string, string. So when we work with strings, strings in Excel are enclosed in double prime quotation marks. And to summarize why that is, really simple, computers don't really like words very much. Computers are numerical based in nature. You can do things with words or strings, but oftentimes when you have a string, you have to indicate that it is a string to a computer. Or in Excel, for example, when you have to indicate a string, you're going to put that string in double prime quotation marks, just like so. Boom, boom. All righty. So our logical test is if the value in cell E3 equals homeowner. So if it is, we're going to have it return the word yes. And if it's not, we will have it return the word no. Now, if I leave the value if false blank, which I could, it would simply say false instead of the word no. But just to be more robust, I'm going to go ahead and put in no, hit enter, and yes, we have it. I can fill this down, and that logic will go with me. Now, this you already knew how to do. So what I want to do is I want to make this more interesting by adding a complication of and, or. We also will talk about not. Now, these are logical operators. These are logical functions. So on their own, they simply return a true or false statement. So the and function, the or function, or the not function. They just return true or false. So for example, I could do the same thing I just did before. So I could take and I could say, well, if the value in E3 equals homeowner. When I do that, it simply says true. And if I fill this down, you'll see false when it's not homeowner, false when it's not homeowner, true when it is homeowner. So on their own, the only thing that the and or the or function do is return true or false statements. Now it's different. The true or false are returned differently depending on what logic is being used. And logic or logic. All right. So we'll talk about that next. But to make things easier, before we talk about and or, let's look at not first, because that's the easiest one. So for example, if I did if and I typed not, I have the argument of one logical test that I have to put in. So the not function gives me one logical test. So what does the not function do? So the not function is going to look at whatever logical test that I give it. And if that logical test is not true, so for example, if I say if cell E3 equals homeowner, and I hit enter like so, it tells me false. It doesn't equal homeowner. Okay. If not equal homeowner. So it is homeowner. Okay. So like this is the homeowner. So since it says homeowner, then this equals false. And if I change it, notice it says true. So this says auto, it doesn't say homeowner. So that's true. This says homeowner, therefore that is not true, which is kind of confusing, right? So an easy way to think of it is look at something that's not homeowner. So look at auto. So this particular cell does not say homeowner. And since it doesn't say homeowner, that is true. This one does say homeowner, which means that it is false since we are using the not function. That one's a little confusing. And there are other ways to use not. So if you don't like that function, if it's confusing to look at it and go, oh man, this is kind of weird. The other way to do it is use this comparison operator here. So you could say if not in this way as well. So I could write a if statement that says if homeowner, so if the value in cell E3 is not equal to homeowner, that would actually do the same thing as if using that not function. So I could do it that way if it's a little confusing thinking about not, which I could see that, especially early in the morning. You got to really think about it. Okay. So not is the easier one. I want to really spend our time focusing on and or. So the and function and the or function are actually really easy to understand because it's a lot like you would say it in the English language. So the benefit of using the and function, and we'll start with that one, then we'll use or, is that it gives you the ability to use multiple logical tests as as operators inside an if function. So you know that the and function returns a true or false value. That we know. But what also makes it special is you have the ability to add multiple logical tests. So for example, let's say that I'm only interested in homeowner policies from the 46208 zip code. So notice there's a homeowner here that's 46207, but we don't care about them. There's a homeowner here that's 46411. We don't care about them. So we are only interested in advertising to homeowner policies in the 46208 zip code. So in order for this to be true, we want this cell to say advertise if this says homeowner and this says 46208. So both this cell E3 has to equal homeowner and D3 has to equal 46208 in order for the value of true to return. So now that's a big old mouthful of information. So let's just do it and you can see it sort of in action. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go equals if, well, actually, let's just go like this first. So before I modify the if statement, let's do this. So we'll go and. So I'll say if the zip code equals 46208, and then I'm going to hit comma. Notice when I do that, it gives me the ability to put in another logical test. So basically, just like you were saying it in the English language, well, if it's a homeowner and it's 46208, well, the and function gives you the ability to have multiple logical tests. That's what makes it the and function, right? This and this and this and. And there's really no limit. See, I can just keep going and I can have as many logical tests as I like. So if D3 equals 46208 and E3 equals homeowner. So we'll just start with that. Okay, we'll just start with that. It's going to tell me true, right? Because this does equal 46208 and this does equal homeowner. But notice the second row here doesn't. So this is homeowner, but it's a different zip code. So because both of these are not true, it now tells me false. And if I fill it down, you'll see that 46208 homeowner, both logical tests are true. Therefore it returns true. Everything else returns false. So now that's pretty nifty, just kind of as a cool trick in Excel. But the thing about this is it's not super beneficial in real business application. So where the and function and the or function really excel, haha, see that joke, really excel in the business world, inside the program Excel, is when you're using them in a nested function with if statements. So let me show you what I mean. So the problem with a regular if statement that I showed you at the beginning of this is that it only has one logical test. So you can only test one argument. So I could say if the policy is homeowner, or on a separate function, I could say if it's 46208, but I can't do them together. I can't check them both in the same function with a regular if statement because I only get one logical test. So the sweet spot of the and or the or function is when you use them together with the if statement. So all of a sudden, instead of me just putting in a logical test, what if I said if and? And when I do that, all of a sudden, I have the ability to use multiple logical tests inside that if statement. So I could say if the zip code is 46208 and the policy type, oops, I typed a little too much type this morning. There we go. And the policy type equals homeowner. Okay. So now I've put my two logical statements in, my two logical tests in. So just like you learned in MS 100, for every open, you need to close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the and function and notice that they're color coded. So it started red and then we're going to close it red. And when I do that, it put me back inside the if statement, right? So here I am. So I'm going to hit comma here. And now I just put in my value of true or value of false. So for example, if we wanted to advertise in this particular case, we'll just do add here. And if not, we'll do NA. And now, boop, there you go. So we're going to advertise for homeowner 46208. And if I fill down NA, and boom, we're going to advertise 46208 homeowner right there. So that's the first comparison function or logical function that we're going to use that is super handy, the and function. So what does the or function do? The or function and the and function, syntax-wise, are almost exactly the same. So if you were to look at the or function, and I've got them spelled out for you over here, but if I were to just type it in for you, you'd see it gives you logical test, logical test, logical test. So similar to the and function, you can have multiple logical tests or multiple test statements inside that or function. The or function also returns a true or false statement. So similar to the and function, it's not super helpful on its own. But when you use it to modify an if statement, or in other terms, if you use it to give multiple logical tests to an if statement, that's where it really gains value. And the difference between the or function and the and function is that if only one of the logical tests is true, the or function will return the value true. The only way the or function returns the value false is if both logical tests, or however many logical tests you have, are all evaluated to false. So for example, if this says homeowner, but this says 46207, the or function still returns the value true. If this says boat and 46411, then the or function would return the value of false, because in order for it to return true, basically this or this have to be true. So now all I did was I cheated a little bit, right? So I went into my function that I wrote and I switched out and I typed in or, right here. But I'll do it the long way just so you guys can see it. But first, let's just, there you go, do this and watch how it changes. See how it changed? So all of a sudden, this evaluated from not applicable to advertise because there's homeowner here, even though that's a different zip code. Okay. Now I'll just go ahead and type this out to make sure you guys understand that. So if I jump in here and I do if, and I'm going to modify that if, or I'm going to supplement or augment that if by typing or. So notice when I do that, I now have two logical tests, but I can have as many as I want. So I'm going to say if the zip code equals 46208 or the homeowner policy, or excuse me, the policy type equals homeowner, like so. So notice that I closed that off with the right parentheses. So I opened the or function, I've closed it. And when I did that, it put me back in the logical test. So I'm going to hit comma and too many commas. I'm going to hit comma here, value of true. And I simply want to plug in whatever I want my value of true or value of false to be. So I could say advertise or NA. And there you go. Fill it down. And there you have it. And or, my friends. So let me just quickly summarize this. And if you wanted to follow along with this, if you wanted to practice this on your own, if you go to our course Canvas page, okay, go to modules, jump down to Excel, our Excel block, go to in-class study materials, and it is AXL Count If version 3 is here if you would like to follow along, okay? So let me just quickly summarize this and then we'll get out of here. So the if function is a logic function in Excel that has one logical test, a value of true and a value of false. The downfall of the if function, and it's not really a downfall, but we'll say just shortcoming of the if function, is that you can only enter in one logical test per function, right? So if I pop this up, one logical test per function. What we learned about today in our quick lesson is how we could modify the if statement with either an and or an or statement. And the and the or statement give you the ability to add multiple logical tests to a traditional if statement that will evaluate to true or false based on the type of logic that is used, which is and logic or logic. We also learned about the function not, which is not used as much as the and or function, but what that would do would basically say, well, if you typed in the logical test, if cell E3 equals homeowner, this would evaluate to, and let's go ahead and do not one more time. So for example, if I said, well, if E3 or E6 equals homeowner, like so, that evaluates to true because it doesn't equal homeowner. Homeowner is not in this. So if you use the not function and you said this cell equals homeowner, well, it doesn't equal homeowner, so that statement is true. If I wrote that function up here, that statement would be false because this does equal homeowner. All righty. So practice makes perfect, my friends. Practice, practice, practice. I hope to see you back live and in class on Monday. And if for those of you just looking to study up before the test, good luck. If you're studying in advance for the test, I'm sure you'll be great. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email. I will see you in class on Monday.